It happened on a regular Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen, stirring pasta sauce for dinner. The house was warm and smelled like garlic and tomatoes. The phone rang.
It was my sister, Lauren.
Her voice was bright and happy. She started talking about my niece Emily's 8th birthday party. I was excited. My kids, David and Sarah, love Emily. But then, Lauren's voice changed. It became cool and distant. There was a pause that felt too long. "We're keeping it small this year," she said. "Just close friends. Not cousins." I stopped stirring. The spoon felt heavy in my hand. I asked her clearly, "So, my kids aren't invited?" Lauren actually laughed. It was a cruel little sound. "They're a little too young, Hannah. It's not the vibe we're going for."
Vibe.
That was the word she used. My children were not the right vibe for her perfect party. My heart broke, not for me, but for my babies. I looked at my husband, Ethan, across the room. He saw my face. He saw the tears I was trying to hide. I didn't know it yet, but that phone call was the end of us being the quiet, nice family. My sister thought she was just planning a party. She didn't realize she was starting a war. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? I stood in the kitchen holding the phone. The line was dead. Lauren had hung up on me, but her laugh was still ringing in my ears. It was a light, airy laugh. It was the sound of someone who has never been told no in her entire life. I looked down at the stove. The pasta sauce was bubbling. Little red drops were splashing onto the clean, white stovetop. I watched them land. I didn't wipe them up. I felt frozen. My hand was gripping the phone, so tight my knuckles were white. "It's not the vibe," she had said. I repeated those words in my head. Not the vibe. My children. My beautiful, sweet, messy children. Sarah is 6. She loves drawing pictures of cats, and she has a laugh that makes everyone else smile. David is 4. He still wants to be held when he gets tired. He thinks his cousin Emily is the coolest person in the world. They talk about her all the time. They were already excited about her birthday. They had made drawings for her. And now, I had to tell them they weren't good enough. I felt a cold wave go through my body. It wasn't anger at first. It was shame. It was that old, familiar feeling I grew up with. The feeling that I took up too much space. The feeling that I was embarrassing. The feeling that Lauren was the princess, and I was just the extra person in the background. Behind me, I heard the heavy footsteps of my husband, Ethan. Ethan is a quiet man. He is tall and broad-shouldered. He works hard. He doesn't say much unless it is important. He had walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water. He stopped when he saw me. "Hannah," he said. His voice was low. "What's wrong?" I turned around slowly. I try to put a smile on my face. That is what I always do. I pretend everything is fine. I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to be dramatic. My mother always told me I was too dramatic. "Nothing," I said. But my voice shook. "Just talking to Lauren." Ethan put his glass down on the counter. He didn't drink. He looked at my face. He knows me better than anyone. He saw the tears in my eyes that hadn't fallen yet. "What did she say?" he asked. He didn't move closer, but his attention was completely on me. I took a deep breath. I tried to make it sound normal. I tried to make it sound like it wasn't a big deal. "She called about Emily's birthday party," I said. I turned back to the stove and started stirring the sauce again. I needed to do something with my hands. "She said they are keeping it small this year." "Okay," Ethan said. He waited. He knew there was more. "She said." I paused. I felt like I was choking on the words. "She said it's just for close friends, not cousins." The kitchen was silent. The only sound was the sauce bubbling. "Not cousins," Ethan repeated. His voice was very flat. "So Sarah and David aren't invited?" "No," I whispered. "Is anyone else excluded?" Ethan asked. I shook my head. "It's just us." "It's always just us, Ethan. She said they are too young. She said they aren't the right vibe." I heard Ethan shift behind me. "Vibe."
Yes.
"Vibe." I finally put the spoon down. I turned around to face him. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears started to fall. "She laughed, Ethan. She laughed about it, like it was a funny joke. Like my kids are just accessories that don't match her outfit. She didn't even sound sorry. She just said they shouldn't come." Ethan's face didn't change much. He doesn't yell. He doesn't throw things, but his eyes went dark. His jaw set hard. I saw the muscle jump in his cheek. That is how I know he is angry. And, what did you say? He asked. I said if they can't come, then you and I won't come either. Ethan nodded. Good. She told me not to be dramatic, I said. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. She said Mom and Dad would be disappointed if we didn't show up. Ethan walked over to me. He put his large hands on my shoulders. His hands were warm and steady. I felt small in his shadow, but safe. Hannah, he said, look at me. I looked up at him. We're not going, he said. The words were simple. There was no room for argument. No one excludes our kids. No one treats them like they are second-class citizens. Not even your sister. But my parents. I started to say, I don't care about your parents right now, Ethan said. I care about our children. I care about you. Lauren made a choice. Now she has to live with it. He pulled me into a hug. I buried my face in his chest. I smelled his cologne and the starch of his work shirt. I let myself cry for a minute. I felt weak, but he held me up. Just then, we heard running feet in the hallway. Mommy, Daddy. It was Sarah. She came running into the kitchen holding a piece of paper. David was right behind her, holding a toy truck. Look, Sarah yelled. She held up the paper. It was a drawing of a cake. A big, lopsided cake with purple candles. I made this for Emily, for her birthday. My heart stopped. I looked at the drawing. I looked at her happy, innocent face. She had no idea. She thought her cousin loved her. She thought she was part of the family. I pulled away from Ethan quickly. I tried to wipe my eyes before she saw. That's beautiful, honey, I managed to say.
My voice sounded thick.
Can I give it to her at the party? Sarah asked. Her eyes were bright. Is there going to be a bouncy castle? David wants a bouncy castle. Bouncy. David yelled, banging his truck on the floor. I looked at Ethan. He was looking at the kids. His expression was soft, but there was sadness in it. And underneath the sadness, there was that anger again. The quiet thunder. I couldn't tell them. Not yet. I wasn't brave enough. We'll see, sweetie. I lied. Go wash your hands. Dinner is almost ready. They ran off to the bathroom, pushing each other and giggling. The sound of their happiness hurt my ears. We ate dinner in silence. Ethan helped cut David's chicken. I pushed my pasta around my plate. I couldn't eat. My stomach was in knots. Every time Sarah mentioned Emily, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. After dinner, Ethan did the dishes. I went upstairs to put the kids to bed. I read them a story about a bear who loses his hat. I tucked them in. I kissed their foreheads. Their skin was soft and warm. They smelled like baby shampoo and milk. I looked at them sleeping. They were perfect. They were kind. They were good kids. Why weren't they good enough for Lauren? What was wrong with them? Nothing. There was nothing wrong with them. The problem was me. I went into our bedroom. Ethan was sitting on the edge of the bed. He had taken off his tie. He was looking at his phone, but he put it away when I came in. Did they go down okay? He asked. Yes, I said. I sat down next to him. You have to stop thinking it's your fault, Ethan said. He knew exactly what I was thinking. It is my fault, I whispered. Lauren hates me.
She has always looked down on me.
Now she is taking it out on them. Lauren is a narcissist, Ethan said. He rarely used words like that. She only cares about how things look. She wants a picture-perfect party for Instagram. Our kids are real. They are loud. They are kids. That doesn't fit her picture. It hurts, Ethan, I said. It hurts so much. I know, he said. He took my hand. But we're drawing a line. Tonight. This stops now. We went to sleep, but I didn't sleep well. I tossed and turned. I kept hearing Lauren's laugh, not the vibe. I knew this wasn't over. I knew my phone would ring again. My parents. They would find out. Lauren would call them. She would spin the story. She would make herself the victim. She always did. And my parents would believe her. They always did. I was scared. I am 34 years old, but inside I felt like a little girl again. I was scared of my mother's voice. I was scared of disappointing my father. But then I thought of Sarah's drawing, the lopsided cake. And I knew Ethan was right. I couldn't protect myself, but I had to protect them. 2 days passed. The house was tense. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Ethan went to work every morning. Before he left, he would kiss me and say, "Stand your ground, Hannah." He was busy. He runs a massive company, the Centennial Group. It is a big deal in the property world. Ethan is powerful. People respect him. They fear him a little bit. But to my family, he was just Ethan. My sister's husband, Ryan, owns a development company too. It is successful, but it is not like Ethan's. My family never really understood what Ethan did. Or maybe they didn't care. They were always too focused on Ryan and Lauren. Ryan was flashy. He drove loud cars. He bought expensive watches. Ethan drove a simple SUV and wore plain clothes. My parents liked flash. They liked things they could brag about to their friends at the country club. Wednesday went by. Nothing. Thursday morning came. I was folding laundry in the living room. The TV was on low. I was matching David's tiny socks. The phone rang. I looked at the screen.
Mom.
My stomach dropped. I knew it was coming, but it still made me feel sick. I stared at the phone. It rang and rang. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail. I could pretend I was in the shower. I could pretend I was driving. But I couldn't hide forever. I picked it up. Hello, Hannah. My mother's voice was sharp. It wasn't a question. It was a demand for attention.
Hi, Mom, I said.
I sat down on the sofa. I held a pair of socks tight in my hand. I just got off the phone with Lauren, she said. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask about the kids. She went straight to the point. Okay, I said. She is very upset, Hannah. She has been crying all morning. I felt a flash of anger. She was crying? She was the one who rejected my children. Why is she crying, Mom? I asked. My voice was steady, but my heart was racing. Because you are refusing to come to her daughter's birthday party, my mother said. She planned this beautiful event. She wants the family there. And you are making a scene. Why do you always have to make a scene? There it was, the script. The same script we had been reading from for 20 years. Hannah is difficult. Hannah makes scenes. Lauren is perfect. Lauren is the victim. I'm not making a scene, Mom, I said. I'm just not going. But why? My mother demanded. It's your niece's birthday. How can you be so selfish? I took a deep breath. Did she tell you why I'm not going? She said you got offended because of some small detail about the guest list, Mom said dismissively. She said you're overreacting. She told me my children aren't invited, I said. I tried to speak clearly. She told me Sarah and David are not allowed to come. There was a silence on the other end. A short one. Well, my mother said. Her tone changed. It became softer, but it was a fake soft. It was the voice you use to talk to a toddler who is throwing a tantrum. Honey, don't overreact. It's Lauren's choice. It's a specific kind of party. It's very fancy. She's worried the little ones might get bored or be distracting. Distracting? I repeated. They are family. Emily is their cousin. I know, Mom sighed. But Lauren has a vision.
You know how she is.
She wants everything perfect. Just come, Hannah. Just you and Ethan. It will be a nice adult evening. You want me to come without my children? I asked. Yes, she said. Get a babysitter. It's just one night. Don't ruin this for your sister. They won't notice, she added quickly. The kids. They won't even know they missed it. I closed my eyes. They will notice, Mom. They will notice when they are the only cousins missing. They will notice when they see the pictures later. Sarah already made a card. She is excited. Oh, Hannah, stop it, Mom snapped. Her patience was gone. Stop using the kids as a shield. This is about you being jealous. You've always been jealous of Lauren. The words hit me like a slap in the face. Jealous? I thought back to when we were teenagers. Lauren got the new car. I got the hand-me-down. Lauren got the private math tutor. I was told to study harder. When Lauren got married, my parents spent a fortune. It was a royal wedding. When I married Ethan, they complained about the cost of the flowers. I'm not jealous, I said. I'm hurt, and I'm protecting my kids. You are being stubborn, Mom said. Dad is very disappointed in you. He agrees with Lauren. He thinks you're being petty. Dad thinks I'm petty?
Yes.
We all think you are being unreasonable. Now call your sister. Apologize. Tell her you and Ethan will be there. No, I said. Excuse me? No, I said again. It was harder this time. My voice shook. I won't apologize. And we won't be there. If you don't come, my mother said, her voice dropping low and cold, don't expect us to come to Sarah's birthday next month. We don't support this kind of behavior. My breath caught in my throat. She was threatening my daughter's birthday. She was willing to punish a 6-year-old just to make me obey. This was the dynamic. This was the family love I had been fighting for my whole life. It was conditional. You only get love if you do exactly what Lauren wants. You only get love if you stay in your place. I looked at the family photo on my mantle. It was just me, Ethan, Sarah, and David. We looked happy. We looked real. I realized something in that moment. That photo on the mantle? That was my family. The woman on the phone? She was just a relative. Fine, I said. Fine. Mom sounded confused. She expected me to beg. She expected me to cry and give in. If that's how you feel, Mom, then fine. Don't come to Sarah's birthday. We will miss you. Hannah Mercer, she shouted. Don't you dare hang up on me. Goodbye, Mom, I said. I pressed the red button. The room was silent. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. I dropped the phone on the couch. I sat there for a long time. I felt like I had just run a marathon. I felt exhausted. But I also felt something else. Relief. I had said no. For the first time in my life, I had really said no to her. But the pain was there, too. A deep, aching hole in my chest. My mother chose Lauren. She chose a party over my children's feelings. She confirmed everything I had always feared, that we didn't matter as much. I got up and walked to the kitchen. I needed water. I needed to wash my face. I looked out the window into the backyard. Sarah and David were playing on the swing set Ethan had built for them. Sarah was pushing David. He was laughing, his head thrown back. They were innocent. They didn't know about the phone call. They didn't know their grandmother had just used them as a bargaining chip. I promised myself right then. They would never know. I would take the bullets. I would take the insults. I would let my family call me crazy, jealous, petty, and dramatic. I would carry all of that weight so that my children could fly light. When Ethan came home that night, I told him about the call. He listened quietly. He unbuttoned his cuffs and rolled up his sleeves. He looked at me with those steady, dark eyes. She threatened to skip Sarah's birthday? He asked. Yes, I said. Ethan nodded. He didn't look surprised. He looked resigned. Okay, he said. Now we know. Know what? We know where we stand. We know who they are. He walked over and kissed my forehead. I'm proud of you, Hannah. I feel terrible, I admitted. That's because you have a good heart, he said. They use your good heart against you, but not anymore. We ate dinner. We played with the kids. We acted normal. But the date of the party was coming closer. It was this Saturday. I dreaded it. I knew it was going to be the day everything broke. I knew Lauren would post pictures. I knew my cousins would be there. I knew everyone would be whispering about why Hannah wasn't there. Let them whisper. I looked at my calendar. Saturday. Ethan, I said later that night. What should we do on Saturday? We should do something fun, he said. Just us. The real family. The aquarium? I suggested. The kids love the sharks. The aquarium sounds perfect, he said. We made a plan. We would run away. We would hide in the blue light of the shark tanks while my sister popped champagne in her white dress. I thought we could escape the pain. I thought if we just didn't go, it wouldn't hurt. I was wrong, because you can't protect children from everything. They have eyes, they have ears, and they have feelings that are bigger than we realize. Saturday was coming, and it was going to be harder than I thought. Saturday morning arrived with a bright, cruel sun. It was the kind of day that was perfect for a garden party. The sky was blue. The air was warm. I woke up with a heavy stone in my stomach. I knew what was happening today. Across town, at a fancy event venue called the Gilded Garden, my sister was setting up balloons. She was probably shouting at a caterer. My parents were probably there, dressed in their best clothes, holding expensive gifts. And we were here. I rolled over and looked at Ethan. He was already awake. He was staring at the ceiling. Morning, he said. Morning, I whispered. Ready for the sharks? He asked. He forced a smile. Ready, I lied. We got the kids up. We made pancakes. We put on a show of happiness. I put Sarah in her favorite blue dress, even though we were just going to the aquarium. I wanted her to feel special. I wanted today to be a good day. Where are we going? Sarah asked, her mouth full of syrup. We are going on an adventure, I said. To the aquarium. To see the big turtles. Yay! David cheered. Sarah paused. She looked at the calendar on the fridge. I had forgotten to take it down. There was a big red star on today's date. Emily's birthday. But Mommy, Sarah said, isn't today Emily's birthday? My heart stopped. I froze with a spatula in my hand. Ethan stopped chewing. Yes, honey, it is, I said. I tried to keep my voice light. Aren't we going to her party? She asked. I have my card. I walked over to the table. I knelt down so I was eye level with her. I brushed a crumb off her cheek. Not today, sweetie, I said. Emily is having a school party today. Just for her friends from school. We are going to celebrate with her another time. It was a lie. A gentle lie, but still a lie. Sarah frowned. She looked confused. But we always go. We are cousins. I know, I said. But plans change. Now, who wants to see the penguins? I distracted them. We packed the car. We drove into the city. The aquarium was crowded.
It was.
Loud and smelled like popcorn and salt water. We walked through the dark tunnels. Blue light danced on our faces. We watched the sharks circle overhead. We pointed at the jellyfish that looked like floating plastic bags. For a few hours, it worked. The kids were happy. They pressed their faces against the glass. They laughed. Ethan held David on his shoulders. I held Sarah's hand. We looked like a normal, happy family. But I wasn't happy. I was checking my phone when no one was looking. I opened Instagram. I couldn't help myself. There it was. Lauren had posted a video. The gilded garden. White balloons everywhere. A huge archway of flowers. A live violinist. My parents were there, clinking glasses with Ryan's parents. Lauren looked stunning in a cream-colored dress. Emily looked like a princess in pink. And there were other kids. Lots of them. Not just school friends. I saw my cousin Beth's kids. I saw the neighbors' kids. Lauren had lied. It wasn't small. It wasn't just school friends. She had invited everyone. Everyone except us. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The blue light of the aquarium suddenly felt suffocating. Hannah. Ethan touched my arm. I quickly put my phone away. I'm fine. Just thirsty. We went to the cafeteria for lunch. We bought overpriced pizza and juice boxes. We sat at a metal table near the window. Sarah was eating her crust. She was quiet. She had been quiet for the last 20 minutes. Mommy, she asked. Yes, baby? If Emily is having a party with her friends, why did Annie Beth go? I froze. What? I saw Annie Beth, Sarah said, in the parking lot. Before we left, she said she was going to Emily's party. She had a present. I didn't know what to say. Children observe everything. They see things we think they miss. Sarah put her pizza down. Her lower lip started to tremble. Did Aunt Lauren not invite us? She asked. Her voice was so small. It broke my heart into a million pieces. I looked at Ethan. He looked helpless. He looked angry. Sweetheart, I started. Does Aunt Lauren not like us? Sarah asked. Tears filled her big brown eyes. Is it because I spilled juice on her rug last Christmas? I didn't mean to. No, I said quickly. I reached across the table and grabbed her hands.
No, Sarah. No.
It is not because of you. You are perfect. You are wonderful. Then why, she sobbed, why doesn't she want us? David saw Sarah crying, and he started to cry too. I want to go to the party, he wailed. I want cake. People were looking at us. I didn't care. All I cared about was the pain in my daughter's eyes. She felt rejected. She felt like she had done something wrong. She felt unworthy. I knew that feeling. I had lived with that feeling my whole life because of my sister and mother. And now they had passed it down to my daughter. It's just a mistake, honey, I tried to say. It's not a mistake, Ethan said. His voice was different. It wasn't his dad voice. It was his business voice. It was cold and hard as steel. Sarah, Ethan said, look at Daddy. Sarah looked at him, tears streaming down her face. This is not your fault, Ethan said firmly. Aunt Lauren made a bad choice. She was mean. And we don't go where people are mean to us. We stay together. We are the Mercer team. And we are better than that party. Sarah sniffled. She was mean? Yes, Ethan said. She was. Okay, Sarah whispered. She wiped her eyes. She trusted her dad. If he said it, it was true. But the light was gone from her eyes. The day was ruined. The magic of the aquarium was dead. We packed up the trash. We walked back to the car. The drive home was silent. David fell asleep. Sarah stared out the window, clutching her seatbelt. I sat in the front seat, staring at the road. My hands were shaking. I wasn't sad anymore. The sadness had burned away. Now, there was only fire. They had made my daughter cry. They had made her think she wasn't good enough. They had made her think she was unlovable because of a rug accident. I looked at Ethan's hands on the steering wheel. His knuckles were white. He was gripping the wheel so hard I thought it might snap. He didn't say a word the whole way home, but the air around him felt heavy. It felt like a storm was gathering. He wasn't just my husband right now. He was a father who had watched his child's heart break. And he was a man with a lot of power. We got home around 4 o'clock. The house was quiet. The sun was starting to go down, casting long shadows across the living room floor. I took the kids upstairs. I washed their faces. I put on a movie for them in the playroom, The Lion King. I gave them some popcorn. I wanted them to forget the day. I wanted them to feel safe. When I came back downstairs, Ethan wasn't in the kitchen. He wasn't in the living room. I saw the light on in his office. Ethan usually doesn't work on weekends. Saturdays are for us. But the door was open, and I could hear the click-clack of his keyboard. It was fast. Aggressive. I walked to the doorway. He was sitting at his large mahogany desk. He hadn't changed his clothes. He was still wearing his polo shirt and jeans from the aquarium. But his face was different. He had his glasses on. He was staring at his 3 monitors. "Ethan?" I said softly. He didn't look up. "Hey, are you working?" I asked. I walked into the room. "You could say that," he replied. I stood next to his chair. I looked at the screen. It was full of spreadsheets, emails, and legal documents. I saw the logo of his company, the Centennial Group, at the top of the screen. "What are you doing?" I asked. He stopped typing. He spun his chair around to face me. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. He looked tired, but very calm. It was a scary kind of calm. "Hannah," he said, "do you know what Ryan is working on right now?"
Ryan.
My sister's husband. The man who was probably eating cake right now while my daughter cried.
"No," I said.
"He never talks to me about work. He thinks I'm not smart enough to understand. He's been working on a deal for 6 months," Ethan said. "A massive development project in North Dallas. New condos, a shopping center. It's the biggest project of his career. It would put his company on the map. It would make them millions." "Okay," I said. I didn't see the connection. "He needs a partner to fund it," Ethan explained. "He needs a capital investment firm to sign off on the land acquisition. Without that partner, the deal dies. He loses the land.
He loses the time.
He loses the money he already spent on architects." I nodded slowly. "Okay." "He's been pitching to a firm called Centennial Acquisitions for months," Ethan said. "He's been sending gifts. He's been taking the directors out to dinner. He thinks he is close to closing the deal next week." Ethan looked at me. He waited for me to connect the dots. My eyes widened. "Centennial, that's you." "That's one of my subsidiary companies," Ethan said. "I don't run the day-to-day operations of that specific branch, so Ryan never dealt with me directly. He dealt with my VPs. He probably doesn't even realize I own the parent company. Ryan isn't very thorough with his research." So, I started. My heart began to beat faster.
"So," Ethan said,
"I have the final approval on all contracts over $5 million. He turned back to the screen. He pointed at an email he had just drafted. It was addressed to his vice president of acquisitions. The subject line read, "Termination of negotiations, Parker Development." I read the body of the email. From Ethan Mercer, CEO, to Sarah Jenkins, VP. "Sarah, please terminate all discussions with Ryan Parker and Parker Development regarding the North Dallas project immediately. Do not sign the contract. Withdraw our offer. Inform Mr. Parker that the Centennial Group does not partner with individuals who lack integrity and family values. This decision is final."
"Ethan."
I stared at the screen. My mouth fell open. "Ethan," I whispered. This is huge. This will destroy his year. This will cost them hundreds of thousands in sunk costs." Ethan finished my sentence. "And millions in future profit."
"He will know it was you," I said.
"I want him to know," Ethan said. His voice was hard. "I want him to know exactly why this happened. They will hate us," I said.
"Mom."
"Dad. Lauren. They will go crazy." Ethan stood up. He towered over me. He took my face in his hands. "They already hate us, Hannah," he said gently. "Or, at least, they don't respect us. They think they can treat you like dirt. They think they can make our children cry, and there are no consequences. They think because I am quiet, I am weak. They think because you are nice, you are a doormat. He wiped a tear from my cheek that I didn't know was there. They made a choice today, Ethan said. They chose to exclude family. They chose to be cruel to a little girl. Now I am making a choice. But is it too much? I asked. I was still scared. The old Hannah was terrified of rocking the boat. Ethan looked deep into my eyes. Hannah, listen to me. Lauren told you that our kids weren't important enough for her party. She said they weren't the right vibe. She valued her aesthetic over our children's hearts. He paused. I am simply showing them that my children are the most important thing in the world to me. If they aren't good enough for Ryan's party, then Ryan isn't good enough for my money. He turned back to the desk. His finger hovered over the send button. Do you want me to stop? He asked. Say the word, Hannah. If you want to keep the peace, I will delete the draft. We can go back to being the quiet cousins who get ignored. I thought about Sarah's face in the cafeteria. Does Aunt Lauren not like us? I thought about the years of my mother telling me to hush. I thought about Lauren laughing on the phone. I looked at Ethan. He was my husband. He was my protector. He was offering me a sword to fight back with.
No, I said.
My voice was stronger than I expected. Don't stop. Ethan nodded. He pressed send. Whoosh. The sound of the email leaving the outbox filled the room. It was done. Ethan closed his laptop. He stood up and stretched. Now, he said, his voice returning to his normal, gentle tone. How about we order some pizza? The good kind, not the aquarium kind. I looked at him in awe. He had just launched a nuclear missile at my family, and now he wanted pizza. Okay, I said. Pizza sounds good. I walked out of the office, but my legs felt shaky. I knew what was coming. The email would go to his VP. The VP would call Ryan on Monday, or maybe even today, since it was urgent. The bomb had been dropped. Now, we just had to wait for the explosion. I went to the window and looked out at the street. The sun was gone. The streetlights were flickering on. It looked like a normal suburban evening, but everything had changed. The war had started. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the victim cowering in the corner. I was standing next to the man who just fired the first shot. Saturday night passed quietly. We ate our pizza on the living room floor. We watched a movie. We didn't talk about the email. It was like a secret sitting in the room with us, invisible but heavy. Sunday came. I woke up feeling nervous. I kept checking my phone, expecting a text from Lauren or my mother. I expected them to yell at me for missing the party, but there was nothing, just silence. I went on social media. I saw the photos. Lauren had posted a thank you message. Best day ever. So grateful for our amazing friends and family who made Emily's day magical. She didn't mention us. She didn't say, missed you, Hannah. It was like we didn't exist. It was like she had erased us from the family tree because we didn't fit the picture. I showed the post to Ethan. He glanced at it and went back to drinking his coffee. Enjoy the silence while it lasts, he said. He was right. Monday morning arrived. It was a gray, rainy day. Ethan put on his suit. He kissed me goodbye.
Keep your phone on, he said.
And remember, you didn't do anything wrong. He drove away to his office tower in the city. I stayed home with David. I tried to do laundry. I tried to clean the kitchen, but I couldn't focus. I was waiting for the bomb to go off. It happened at 10:15 a.m. My phone was on the kitchen counter.
It buzzed.
It was a long, angry buzz. Then it buzzed again, and again, and again. I walked over to it slowly. My heart started hammering against my ribs. 4 missed calls. Lauren. 3 text messages. Lauren. 2 missed calls, Mom. I picked up the phone. My hands were shaking. I opened the text messages first. Lauren. What the hell is Ethan doing? Lauren. Ryan just got off the phone with Centennial. They are pulling the contract. Lauren. Call me right now. You are ruining our future. I stared at the words. The capital letters looked like they were screaming at me. Then a text from my mother popped up. Mom, Hannah, your husband is destroying your sister's company over a party. Have you lost your mind? Fix this immediately. I felt a wave of nausea. They were panicked. They were angry. But then, I remembered Sarah's face in the cafeteria. Does Aunt Lauren not like us? I took a deep breath. I didn't call them back.
Not yet.
I called Ethan instead. He answered on the first ring. His voice was calm, steady, and professional. There was no background noise.
He was in his soundproof office. Hey, he said. It started, I said.
Lauren is blowing up my phone. Mom, too.
I know,
Ethan said. Ryan just called my front desk. He tried to get through to me. My assistant told him I was in a meeting. Did the VP tell him? Yes, Ethan said. My VP, Sarah Jenkins, called Ryan at 10 a.m. She told him that the Centennial Group has decided to go in a different direction. She told him that the chairman, that's me, declined to partner with anyone who disrespects family values. What did Ryan say? I asked. Apparently, he started shouting. He asked what family values had to do with real estate. He didn't get it at first. Then, he realized who the chairman is. Ethan paused. I could hear him tapping a pen on his desk. Hannah, are you okay? He asked. I'm shaking, I admitted. They are so angry, Ethan. They're saying I'm ruining their future. They ruined their own future, Ethan said firmly. They treated people like garbage. Now they are shocked that there is a smell. I have to answer them eventually, I said. You don't have to do anything, Ethan said. But if you do answer, remember, you hold the cards. They need us. We don't need them. We hung up. I looked at my phone again. It was buzzing in my hand. Incoming call, Lauren. I let it ring. I thought about the last 20 years. I thought about how Lauren always got the best room on vacation. I thought about how Mom always criticized my hair but praised Lauren's style. I thought about how I was always the dramatic one and Lauren was the golden one. They always had the power. They decided if I was good enough. They decided if my kids were invited.
But now?
Now the power was in my hand. It was in my husband's signature. I looked at the screen. The ringing stopped. Then it started again, immediately. I sat down at the kitchen table. I watched the rain hit the window. For the first time, I realized something. They weren't calling because they missed me. They weren't calling to apologize for hurting Sarah. They were calling because of money. That hurt. It hurt deep down in my bones. Even now, in the middle of a crisis, it wasn't about feelings. It was about the checkbook. My mother's text wasn't, "Why is the family fighting?" It was, "Fix this." I was just the fixer. I was the doormat they stepped on to get what they wanted. I typed a reply to my mother. My fingers felt heavy. I can't fix it. Ethan makes his own business decisions. Mom, don't give me that.
You put him up to this.
You are being vindictive because you weren't invited to a stupid party. It wasn't a stupid party to Sarah.
She cried, Mom.
Mom, she is 6. She will get over it. Ryan is going to lose millions. How can you compare a child's tantrum to a business deal? I stared at that message. How can you compare a child's tantrum to a business deal? That was it. That was the truth right there in black and white. To my mother, money was real. My daughter's feelings were not. I didn't reply to her. I waited. Around noon, Ethan sent me a text. Ryan is driving to my office. Security has been alerted not to let him up. Stay inside. He might come to the house after. I locked the front door. I checked the back door. I pulled the curtains. It felt like we were under siege, but inside the house it was warm. David was playing with his blocks. He was building a tower. Look, Mommy, tall, he shouted. Very tall, baby, I said. I looked at him. He was safe. He was happy. And suddenly, the buzzing phone didn't scare me as much. Let them be angry. Let them scream. I had my family right here. The real family. But I knew I couldn't hide forever. The confrontation was coming. Lauren wouldn't just text. She would scream. And I had to be ready to scream back. At 2 p.m., the phone rang again. Lauren. I decided to answer. I couldn't let the fear control me anymore. I pressed the green button. Hello. Are you crazy? Lauren screamed. She didn't say hello. Her voice was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. She sounded hysterical. Do you realize what this means for us? Hello, Lauren, I said. My voice was surprisingly calm. Don't you hello Lauren me, she yelled. Ryan is freaking out. Ethan canceled the Centennial contract. Do you know how much money that is? Do you know how much we have already spent? I heard, I said. You have to tell him to stop, she demanded. Tell him it was a mistake. Tell him you're sorry. Whatever he wants, just fix it. I can't tell him what to do, I said. Ethan is his own man. Bullshit, she screamed. He did this because of you. He did this because of the party. Ryan said the email mentioned family values. That's you, Hannah. That's your petty, dramatic nonsense. I felt a spark of anger in my chest. It started small, then it flared up hot. It's not nonsense, I said firmly. It's a birthday party, she shrieked. It's balloons and cake. And you are destroying a massive real estate deal over it. You are insane. You excluded my children, I said. I kept my sentences short. I didn't want to get lost in words. So what? She yelled. It wasn't personal. It was personal to Sarah. I cut in. She asked if you hated her. She asked why she wasn't good enough. Oh my God, stop being such a victim.
Lauren groaned.
She's a kid. She doesn't know anything.
She knows she was left out, I said.
She knows her cousin had a party with all the neighbors and she wasn't allowed to go. We wanted an elegant atmosphere. Lauren argued. Your kids they're loud. They run around. I wanted a specific vibe. You wanted a vibe, I repeated. And because you wanted a vibe, you told 2 children they weren't important enough. My husband simply agreed with you. What? She asked. She sounded confused. You said my family wasn't up to your standards, I explained. Ethan decided that if we aren't good enough for your party, then you aren't good enough for his company. There was a silence on the line. I could hear Lauren breathing hard. I could hear a man yelling in the background, probably Ryan. This is blackmail, she whispered. No, I said. It's consequences. You are jealous, she spat out. You have always been jealous of me. You're jealous of my house, my life, my husband. You saw a chance to hurt me, and you took it. I'm not jealous, I said. I'm tired. I'm tired of being the second-class sister. I'm tired of my kids being treated like nuisances. This is hundreds of, thousands of dollars, Hannah, she screamed again, her voice cracking. She was crying now. We needed this deal. We bought the land. If the funding doesn't come through, we lose the deposit. We could lose the house. I paused. I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know they were that leveraged. For a second, the old Hannah wanted to apologize. The old Hannah wanted to say, oh no, I'll fix it, please don't cry. But then I remembered the text from my mother. How can you compare a child's tantrum to a business deal? And you thought a child's tears were worthless? I asked her. What? She sobbed. You knew this would hurt Sarah, I said. But you didn't care. You thought her pain was worth it, so you could have your perfect Instagram photos. You put a price on my daughter's feelings. You decided she was worth 0. I didn't. Yes, you did, I said. And now you are crying because you are losing money. You aren't crying because you hurt me. You are crying because you hurt your wallet. You are a monster, she whispered. No, I said. I'm a mother. She hung up on me. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at the wall. My heart was pounding, but my hands had stopped shaking. I had done it. I had stood up to her. But the war wasn't over. It moved to a new battlefield. The family group chat. My phone started pinging like crazy. Notification. Ryan left the group. Notification. Aunt Martha added to the group. Mom. Everyone, we have a crisis. Hannah and Ethan are trying to bankrupt Lauren out of spite. I need everyone to talk sense into them. Cousin Beth. Wait, what happened? Mom. Hannah is mad. She was invited to Emily's party, so Ethan canceled Ryan's funding. It is evil. Aunt Martha. That sounds terrible. Hannah, how could you? Family helps family. Lauren. We are going to lose the North Dallas project. We might have to sell the cars. Ethan is ruining us. Dad. Ethan, answer your phone. This is childish. Be a man and fix this. I read the messages. They were rewriting history. They were painting me as the villain. They didn't mention the exclusion. They didn't mention the vibe. They only talked about the money. I wanted to type. I wanted to defend myself. I started typing a long paragraph explaining everything. Then Ethan walked in the front door. He looked tired.
He loosened his tie.
He saw me staring at my phone with tears in my eyes. Don't, he said softly. He walked over and took the phone from my hand. He looked at the group chat. He saw the insults. He saw my father calling him childish. He didn't type anything. He didn't argue. He simply went to the menu and pressed exit group. Then he handed the phone back to me. We don't negotiate with terrorists, he said. A small, tired smile touched his lips. They hate us, I whispered. They are panicking, he said. Let them panic. Let them realize that we are not the ones who need them. They need us. What happens now? I asked. Now, Ethan said, we wait. Ryan is desperate. He shouted at my staff today. That was a mistake. Now my whole legal team knows he is unstable. The contract is dead, Hannah. Really dead. Will they ever forgive us? I asked. Ethan went to the fridge and got a bottle of water. The question isn't if they will forgive us, he said. The question is, will you forgive them?
I thought about that.
I thought about the nasty texts, the name calling. I don't know, I said. Good, Ethan said. Don't forgive them yet. Let it burn for a bit. That night, the group chat continued without us. I'm sure they said terrible things. I'm sure they called me every name in the book. But for the first time in years, the house was peaceful. We weren't trying to please them. We weren't trying to earn their love. We had stepped off the hamster wheel. We were alone, but we were free. But I knew my sister. She wasn't done. She was desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. If screaming didn't work, she would try something else. She would try to use the only weapon she had left.
Guilt.
2 days passed after the group chat explosion. The silence in our house was different now. It wasn't the silence of waiting for a bomb. It was the silence of a castle with the drawbridge pulled up. We were safe, but we were isolated. Tuesday evening came. It was raining again. The sky was a bruised purple color. Ethan was in the kitchen helping Sarah with her math homework. I was folding towels.
The doorbell rang.
We all froze. We weren't expecting Amazon. We weren't expecting friends. I'll get it, Ethan said. He stood up slowly. No, I said. I put the towel down. I'll get it. I walked to the front door. I looked through the peephole. It was Lauren, but it wasn't the Lauren I was used to. Usually Lauren looked perfect. Hair blown out, makeup flawless, wearing heels even on a Tuesday. The woman on my porch looked small. She was wearing a gray raincoat and leggings. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She wasn't holding an umbrella. She was just standing in the drizzle, looking at her feet. I opened the door. Hi, she whispered. I didn't invite her in immediately. I stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance. Hi, can I come in? She asked. Her voice cracked.
Please.
I didn't tell Mom I'm here. I need to talk to you. I looked at her eyes. They were red and puffy. She looked exhausted. The arrogance was gone. The vibe was gone. All that was left was my sister. Okay, I said. Come in. She stepped inside and took off her wet coat. She shivered. I led her to the living room. Ethan looked up from the table. When he saw Lauren, his face went blank. He didn't smile, but he didn't yell. He just watched. Hi, Ethan, Lauren said quietly.
Lauren, he nodded.
She sat on the edge of the sofa. She wouldn't look at us. She picked at a loose thread on a cushion. I came to tell you the truth, she said. We're listening, I said. She took a shaky breath. Ryan is a mess. He hasn't slept in 3 days. He's trying to find other investors, but word got out that Centennial walked away. Now everyone thinks something is wrong with the project. It's falling apart. I'm sorry to hear that, Ethan said. His voice was polite, but not warm. I know you did it because of the party, Lauren said. She finally looked up at me. And you were right. I blinked.
I wasn't expecting that.
Right about what? I asked. About the jealousy, she admitted. Tears started to well up in her eyes again. I told you I wanted a specific vibe for the party. I said your kids were too young. That was a lie. She wiped her face with her sleeve. The truth is, Emily has been difficult lately. She's been struggling in school. She has tantrums. And every time we have a family dinner, everyone talks about Sarah and David. Oh, look how polite Sarah is. Look how sweet David is. Mom always compares them. I was shocked. Mom compares them? But she always praises you. To your face, she praises me, Lauren said. But in private, she tells me I need to be stricter. She tells me Emily isn't as well-behaved as Sarah. It drives me crazy, Hannah. It makes me feel like a failure. I sat down next to her. I had no idea. So, Lauren continued, sobbing softly now. For her birthday, I wanted her to shine. I didn't want Sarah there being perfect and cute. I didn't want David being sweet. I wanted Emily to be the only star. I wanted to be the only mother being praised. So you cut us out, I said. Yes, she whispered. I was jealous. And I was mean. And I used my daughter's birthday to make myself feel better. She looked at me, her face wet with rain and tears. Emily never said she didn't want them there, Lauren confessed. She actually asked where they were on Saturday. I lied to her. I told her you guys were busy. That hit me hard. My niece hadn't rejected us. My sister had. I'm sorry, Hannah, she said. I'm so sorry. I let my insecurity hurt your kids. And now I've cost my husband everything because I couldn't swallow my pride. The room was quiet. I looked at Ethan. His expression had softened. He saw it too. She wasn't the villain anymore. She was just a broken person, just like Mom had made me feel broken for years. We were both victims of the same pressure to be perfect. I reached out and took her hand. It was cold. Thank you for telling me, I said. Do you hate me? She asked. I was very angry, I said. I'm still hurt, but I don't hate you. You're my sister. Lauren squeezed my hand. Then she looked at Ethan. She looked scared.
Ethan, she said.
I know I don't deserve it, but is there any way? If I apologize to the kids? If I fix this? Ryan, he really worked hard on this. Ethan looked at her. He leaned back in his chair. He didn't answer immediately. The next afternoon, a silver car pulled up to our driveway. It was Lauren again, but this time, she had Emily with her. I opened the door. Emily was holding 2 large envelopes. She looked shy. She was wearing her school uniform. Hi, Annie Hannah, Emily said. Hi, sweetie, I said. I smiled at her. It wasn't hard. I loved this kid. Can we come in? Lauren asked. She looked nervous. Of course. We went into the living room. Sarah and David were building a fort out of blankets. When they saw Emily, they stopped. Sarah stood up. She looked at Emily, then she looked at me. She was remembering the aquarium. She was remembering the mean aunt. Hi, Sarah, Emily said. She walked over. I brought you something. She handed Sarah one of the envelopes. Sarah opened it. It was a card. It was handmade, covered in glitter and stickers. Inside, in big, messy handwriting, it said, I am sorry you missed my party. I want you at my next one. Love, Emily. I made one for David too, Emily said, handing the other one to my son. Sarah looked at the card. Then she looked at Emily. Did you not want us there? Sarah asked. She was brave. She asked the question that mattered. No, Emily said, her eyes wide. Mommy said you were busy. I missed you. The clown was scary. You would have laughed. Sarah smiled. The tension vanished instantly. I hate clowns, Sarah giggled. Me too, Emily said. And just like that, they were hugging. They ran off to the blanket fort together. David followed them, shouting, cousins. Adults hold on to grudges. Children hold on to hands. I looked at Lauren. She was crying again, watching them play. I told her, Lauren whispered to me. I told her I made a mistake. I told her I was the reason you didn't come. I didn't want her to think you abandoned her. That was brave, I said. Thank you. Ethan walked into the room. He had been listening from the hallway. Lauren stood up straighter. Ryan was waiting in the car outside. I could see his silhouette in the driver's seat. He was too ashamed to come in. Ethan, Lauren said. We fixed it with the kids. I told the truth. Mom is furious with me for admitting it, but I don't care anymore. That is good, Lauren, Ethan said. I'm glad. So, she hesitated. About the contract. Ryan is outside. He has the paperwork. If you just sign the approval, we can save the deal. We can put this behind us. I held my breath. I looked at Ethan. The family was back together. The kids were playing. Lauren had apologized. Everything was fixed. Ethan looked at the kids in the fort. Then he looked at Lauren. His eyes were kind, but sad.
Lauren, he said gently.
I forgive you. We forgive you. Lauren let out a huge breath of relief. She smiled. Oh, thank God. Thank you, Ethan. I'll go get Ryan. Wait, Ethan said. She stopped. I forgive you, Ethan repeated. But I am not signing the contract. Lauren's face fell. What? But, you said. I said I forgive you, Ethan said. But the deal is dead, Lauren. I meant what I said in the email. We don't do business this way. But it was just a fight. Lauren pleaded. We apologized. Why are you still punishing us? It's not punishment, Ethan said firmly. It's a consequence. If I sign that paper now, what is the lesson? The lesson is that you can treat people badly, say sorry, and everything goes back to normal because money is involved. He shook his head. I can't do that. Ryan needs to find another partner. It will be harder. It will take longer. You might lose money, but you will survive. We might have to downsize, Lauren said, her voice trembling. We might have to move to a smaller house. Ethan nodded.
And you will still be a family.
You will still have Emily. You will still have us. That's what matters. Lauren looked at me, begging for help. Hannah. I looked at my husband. I saw a man of principle. A man who wasn't afraid of money.
He was right.
If we fix the money, we broke the lesson. He's right, Lauren, I said softly. Lauren stood there for a long time. She looked devastated. She looked at the door. She looked at the kids laughing in the fort. She had a choice. She could storm out. She could scream. She could choose the money again. But she didn't. She slumped her shoulders. She nodded. Okay, she whispered. Okay. She walked to the window and waved at Ryan. She made a cut-it motion with her hand. Ryan hit the steering wheel in frustration, but he didn't honk.
He just sat there.
Lauren turned back to us. Can Emily stay for dinner? She asked. I don't want to take her away from the game yet. I smiled. My heart felt full. Yes, I said. And you should stay too. We're having tacos. It's not fancy. It's definitely not the vibe. Lauren laughed. It was a wet, shaky laugh, but it was real. I love tacos, she said. 6 months have passed since the birthday party. Things are different now. Not perfect, but different. Ryan's company took a big hit. They lost the North Dallas contract. They lost a lot of money. They had to sell their big house with the pool and move into a regular house a few streets away from us. They drive a Toyota now, not a Range Rover. My mother was furious for months. She told everyone that Ethan was a ruthless businessman. She refused to come to Sunday dinner for a while, but eventually she came back.
Why? Because she realized something.
We weren't asking for her approval anymore. We weren't chasing her. If she wanted to see her grandchildren, she had to come to us. She had to respect us. The power dynamic shifted. Ethan is no longer the quiet husband. He is the man who stood up. When he speaks at dinner now, my father listens. When I say no to something, my mother doesn't argue.
She knows I have a backbone now.
Lauren and I are closer than we have ever been. Since she lost the big house and the pressure to be perfect, she has relaxed. She comes over in sweatpants. We drink cheap coffee and complain about our kids. We are real sisters now, not competitors. She told me last week, I was drowning, Hannah. Keeping up that image costs so much money and energy. I think losing that deal was actually the best thing that happened to us.
Tonight, I was sitting on the porch with Ethan.
The kids were asleep. The air was cool. Ethan, I said. I looked at his profile in the moonlight. Yeah. Would you really do it again? I asked. Knowing how much trouble it caused? Knowing how much money Ryan lost? He turned to look at me. He smiled that faint, steady smile. Every single time, he said.
Why? I asked.
You could have just yelled at them. You didn't have to use the nuclear option. Hannah, he said. The moment someone tells our kids they don't matter, they stop being family. They become a lesson. He took a sip of his tea. People treat you the way you let them treat you, he said. For years, you let them treat you like you were small. I had to show them how big we actually are. I looked inside the house. I saw the toys on the floor. I saw the drawings on the fridge, Sarah's and Emily's drawings, side by side. Peace had finally replaced the confusion. Ethan didn't just end a business deal that day. He ended a cycle of abuse. He ended the idea that money makes you right. He taught my sister that her daughter's heart is worth more than a condo development. And he taught me that I am worth defending. You're a good man, Ethan Mercer, I whispered. I'm just a dad, he said. And nobody messes with my team. We sat there in the quiet dark, holding hands. We aren't the richest family in town anymore. We aren't the most popular. But we are whole. And we are free. If you have ever been told your family isn't good enough, remember this. Some lessons cost millions of dollars. But the self-respect you buy with that lesson? That is priceless. Don't let anyone treat your children like accessories. Stand up. Speak up. And if you have to, walk away. Because the only vibe that matters is love. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground. I always knew I was the outsider in my own family, but I never expected them to put a specific price tag on it. We were sitting in the lawyer's office. The air smelled like old paper and expensive coffee. Mr. Boone read my sister Lauren's name first. $6.9 million. My parents beamed at her. My father actually clapped. Then Mr. Boone said my name. To Madeline Carter, the sum of $1. The room went quiet, but not for long. My father smirked. He looked right at me and said, "Go earn your own, Maddie." My mother didn't even look at me. She was too busy touching Lauren's arm. She just added, "Some kids just don't measure up. It's better she learns now." They laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It was a mean, happy laugh. They thought it was funny to leave me with nothing but a piece of paper worth less than a candy bar. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stared at the dollar bill on the mahogany table. But they didn't see what Mr. Boone did next. While they were busy laughing, he slid a thick, sealed envelope across the table toward me. It was marked for Madeline only. He leaned in and whispered, "Read this alone." Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? The drive back from the lawyer's office to the lake house was quiet. My parents sat in the front seat of their expensive SUV. Lauren sat next to me in the back. She was scrolling through her phone, probably looking at houses or cars she could buy with $6.9 million. Every few minutes, she would let out a small giggle or a sigh of relief. My father turned on the radio. He hummed along to a classic rock song. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. He looked happy. He looked lighter, like a heavy weight had been taken off his shoulders. My mother was looking out the window, but I could see her reflection in the glass. She was smiling. I sat there clutching the envelope Mr. Boone had given me. I hadn't opened it yet. I didn't want to open it in front of them. I looked at the back of my father's head. I looked at my mother's perfect hair. And I felt that old, familiar feeling settle into my stomach. It was a cold, heavy stone. It was the feeling of being invisible. This wasn't new. The will reading wasn't a surprise. Not really. It was just the final punctuation mark on a sentence that had been written 20 years ago. Growing up, I learned very quickly that invisibility wasn't about being unseen. It was about being ignored on purpose. It is a very active thing. It takes effort to look right through a person every single day. I remember our house in Connecticut. It was a big house with a wide hallway leading to the living room. On the left wall, there were shelves, floor-to-ceiling shelves made of dark oak. My mother called it the gallery. It was really a shrine to Lauren. Lauren was 2 years older than me. She was loud, she was pretty, and she was demanding. She did gymnastics. She played the flute. She was on the debate team. Every time she did anything, she got a trophy or a certificate. And every single one of them ended up on the gallery shelves. There were gold plastic statues of gymnasts. There were framed certificates for participation and most improved. There were ribbons blue, red, yellow. My mother dusted them every Tuesday. She would take a soft cloth and wipe down the gold plastic until it shined. She would adjust the frames so they were perfectly straight. I had things, too. I was good at math. I won the science fair in 5th grade. I wrote a poem that got published in the district newsletter. I brought my science fair ribbon home one day. It was a big blue rosette. It said first place in gold letters. I was 10 years old. I remember walking into the kitchen, holding it against my chest. My heart was beating fast. I wanted them to see it. I wanted them to put it on the shelf next to Lauren's gymnastics participation medal. "Mom," I said. "Dad, look." My mother was chopping vegetables. My father was reading the paper. Lauren was sitting at the table, complaining about her knee hurting. "Mom," I said again, a little louder. My mother glanced over her shoulder. "That's nice, Madeline. Put it on the fridge." "But Lauren's are on the shelf," I said. My father lowered his paper. He looked annoyed. "The fridge is fine, Maddie. Don't be jealous. It's ugly." "It's not ugly," I whispered. "I won. Lauren hurt her knee today," my mother said, turning back to the carrots. "We need to focus on getting ice. Stop making this about you." I didn't put the ribbon on the fridge. I took it to my room and put it in the bottom drawer of my desk. Over the years, that drawer filled up. Report cards with straight A's. Art projects. A medal for track. They all went into the dark. The shelves and the hallways stayed full of Lauren. Eventually, there was no room left. My parents bought a second cabinet. They filled that one, too. It wasn't just the trophies. It was the space we took up in their minds. Dinner time was the worst. We would sit at the round table. My father would serve the food. He always gave Lauren the best piece of chicken, the one with the crispy skin. He gave me the dry piece, or the one that was slightly burnt. It was a small thing, but it happened every night. So, Lauren, my father would say, "Tell us about practice." And Lauren would talk. She would talk for 20 minutes about her coach, her friends, the girl she hated, the boy she liked. My parents listened. They nodded. They asked questions. They laughed at her jokes, even when they weren't funny. When she finally stopped to breathe or chew, silence would fall over the table. I would wait. I would count the seconds in my head. 1, 2, 3, waiting for them to turn to me, waiting for them to ask, "And how was your day, Madeline?" They never did. They would just start talking about the bills, or the vacation they were planning, or the neighbors. I learned to eat quickly. I learned to clear my plate without making a sound. I learned that my voice was an interruption. There was one moment that defined it all for me. I was 16. It was time for the junior prom. Lauren had gone to her prom 2 years before. My parents had taken her to a boutique in the city. They bought her a dress that cost $400. They paid for her hair, her makeup, and a limousine for her and her friends. When my turn came, I found a dress I liked at the mall. It wasn't expensive. It was blue, simple, and elegant. It cost $80. I asked my mother for the money. We were in the kitchen. She was drinking tea. "Mom, can I get this dress for prom?" I showed her the picture on my phone. She frowned. She took a sip of tea. $80? That's a lot, Madeline. You spent $400 on Lauren's, I said. I tried not to sound angry, but my voice shook. That was different, she said. Lauren was running for prom queen. She needed to look the part. Well, you're just going with friends, right? I still want to look nice, I said. She sighed. It was a long, tired sigh. She put her cup down and looked at me with a soft, pitying expression. That look hurt more than anger. Madeline, she said softly, you don't need much. You're not like Lauren. You're simple. You're quiet. Why spend all that money when you're just going to stand in the back? You don't need much. That sentence burned itself into my brain. It became the rule of my life. Madeline doesn't need new clothes. Hand-me-downs are fine. Madeline doesn't need a tutor. She's smart enough to figure it out. Madeline doesn't need a car. She can take the bus. Madeline doesn't need love. She can survive on scraps. I bought a dress from a thrift store for $10. I did my own hair. I didn't go to the prom. I stayed in my room and watched a movie. My parents didn't even notice I was home. They thought I had gone. The next morning, they didn't ask how it was. They just assumed I had a mediocre time, fitting for a mediocre daughter. Living like that changes you. You stop asking for things. You stop raising your hand. You stop trying to shine because you know no one is watching. You become a ghost in your own life. But ghosts have a superpower. Because no one looks at you, you get to see everything. I saw the way my father drank too much scotch on Tuesday nights. I saw the way my mother hid credit card bills in the laundry basket so Dad wouldn't find them. I saw the lies they told each other. I saw the cracks in the perfect family portrait that they were so desperate to paint. And I saw something else, too. I saw that they were scared. They were scared of not having enough money, scared of looking bad to the neighbors, scared of getting old. They filled that fear with noise and Lauren's trophies. I didn't have trophies. I had silence. And in that silence, I learned to watch. There was only one person who saw me. My grandfather Henry. He was my father's father, but they were nothing alike. My father was loud, flashy, and obsessed with appearances. Grandpa Henry was quiet, steady, and obsessed with the truth. He had built the family fortune with a construction business, starting from nothing. He had rough hands and wore flannel shirts even though he was a millionaire. He lived in the guest cottage behind our main house in Connecticut during the winters, and he spent his summers at the lake house in Vermont. The lake house was his real home. It was where he felt alive. And it was the only place where I felt alive, too. When I was little, the weekends at the lake were my escape. The drive up was always stressful, my parents arguing about traffic, Lauren complaining about the Wi-Fi signal. But as soon as we pulled into the gravel driveway and I saw Grandpa standing on the porch, my shoulders would drop. He wouldn't look at my parents. He wouldn't look at Lauren. He would look right at me. "There she is," he would say. "There's my first mate." He never called Lauren that. Lauren hated the lake. She hated the bugs, the smell of pine, and the lack of a mall. She spent the weekends inside watching TV. My parents spent the weekends drinking wine on the deck and inviting neighbors over to show off. But I spent the weekends on the water with Henry. Our routine was sacred. It started at 5 a.m. The house would be silent. My parents wouldn't wake up until noon. I would creep out of my room, tiptoe past Lauren's door, and go to the kitchen. Grandpa would be there, pouring coffee into a thermos. He would have a hot chocolate ready for me. We didn't talk much in the morning. We didn't need to. We would walk down the wooden stairs to the dock. The air was always cold and gray that early. The mist would be rising off the water, looking like ghosts dancing on the surface. We would get into his old aluminum fishing boat. It wasn't fancy. It had dents and scratches. My father wanted him to buy a speedboat, something sleek and white. Grandpa refused. "This boat knows the water," he said. He would start the engine. It would cough and sputter, then settle into a low hum. We would glide out into the center of the lake. Once the engine was cut, the silence was absolute. Just the sound of water lapping against the metal hull and the distant call of a loon. This was where he taught me. He didn't teach me how to be popular. He didn't teach me how to smile for photos. He taught me how to see. "Madeline," he said one morning. I was 12. "Look at the water." "What do you see?" I looked over the side. "I see the reflection of the trees and some ripples." "That's the surface," he said gently. He baited his hook with a worm. His fingers were thick but careful. Most people only look at the surface. They see what they expect to see. They see the shine. They see the reflection. He cast his line out. It made a small splash. "But if you want to catch the big fish," he continued, "you have to look deeper. You have to watch for what moves underneath. You have to look for the shadows, the things that are trying to hide." I looked closer. I stared until my eyes watered. And then I saw it. A dark shape moving under the green water. A shadow shifting against the weeds. "I see it," I whispered. "Good," he said. "Patience, Maddie. The truth doesn't shout. It waits." He wasn't just talking about fish. I knew that even then. Grandpa Henry knew how my parents treated me. He never yelled at them about it. That wasn't his way. He knew that yelling just made my father defensive and my mother spiteful. Instead, he counteracted them. If my father called me plain, Grandpa would tell me I had eyes that saw everything. If my mother forgot my birthday, Grandpa would have a gift hidden in the boathouse. When I was 15, he gave me the fishing rod. It wasn't a store-bought rod. It was hand-carved. He had made it himself over the winter. It was polished wood, smooth as glass, with a cork handle that fit my hand perfectly. Near the reel, he had carved my initials. "MC, this is for you," he said. "Not for your dad to borrow. Not for Lauren to play with. Yours." I ran my thumb over the initials. "Thank you, Grandpa." "You have a steady hand, Madeline," he told me. "Your sister, she's like a firework. Bright, loud, gone in a second. Your parents, they are like dust in the wind, blowing wherever the money is. But you," he looked at me, his blue eyes sharp and serious. "You're deep water. You're strong. You hold things." I didn't feel strong. I felt small. But when he said it, I believed him. As he got older, our conversations changed. He stopped talking about fish and started talking about business. Not the boring parts my father bragged about at parties, but the real parts, the mechanics of it. He brought ledgers onto the boat. He showed me columns of numbers. "Numbers tell a story," he said. "People lie. They smile when they hate you. They promise when they plan to steal. But numbers? If you know how to read them, they never lie. They always leave a trail." He taught me how to spot a shell company. He taught me how to see when an expense report was faked. He taught me that a missing number is just as important as a present one. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked him once. I was 22, just out of college with an accounting degree, a degree my parents mocked because it wasn't creative or impressive. Grandpa looked at the horizon. He looked tired that day. His skin was gray. "Because someone in this family needs to know how to steer the ship when the storm comes. And it's not going to be your father." I didn't understand the full weight of his words then. I thought he was just being grumpy about my dad's spending habits. I didn't know he was preparing me for war. He died 6 months ago. A heart attack, quick and final. When he died, I felt like the only light in my world had gone out. My parents threw a massive funeral. They hired a caterer. They wore designer black clothes. They cried loudly in the front row. Lauren gave a eulogy where she talked about how much Grandpa loved her gymnastics, which was a lie. He never went to a single meet. I sat in the back. I didn't speak. I didn't cry in front of them. I just held the small, wooden fishing lure he had given me in my pocket. I squeezed it until the hooks dug into my palm. After the funeral, the sharks started circling. My parents started talking about the estate. They talked about the lake house like it was a pile of cash waiting to be counted. They talked about his investments. They couldn't wait to get their hands on it. And then came the will reading, the moment they had been waiting for, the moment they thought would make them kings and queens. They got the money. They got the validation. They got the last laugh. Or so they thought. As we drove back to the lake house, leaving the lawyer's office behind, I looked down at the sealed envelope in my lap. I thought about the numbers Grandpa had taught me to read. I thought about the shadows under the water. Watch for what moves underneath. My father turned the radio up louder. He was singing along now. "It's a beautiful day," he shouted. I touched the envelope. I felt a hard, rectangular shape inside, along with the paper. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the fisherman. And the water was about to get very rough. I woke up early the next morning out of habit. The sun was just coming up over the lake, painting the water in stripes of pink and orange. For a second, I forgot. I forgot about the lawyer, the $6.9 million, and the single dollar bill sitting on my nightstand. Then, I heard the noise downstairs. It was a thumping sound. Then the sound of tape being ripped. I got dressed quickly. I put on jeans and a thick sweater. I packed my bag. I didn't have much to pack. I had brought 3 outfits for the weekend. I folded them neatly. I put the envelope from Mr. Boone in the front pocket of my backpack. I put the single dollar bill in my wallet. It felt like a joke I wasn't allowed to laugh at. When I walked downstairs, the house looked like a store that was going out of business. My parents were everywhere. They weren't grieving. They were working. My mother was in the living room. She held a pad of yellow sticky notes. She was moving from piece to piece of furniture, slapping a yellow square on everything.
Stick.
The antique clock.
Stick.
The leather armchair.
Stick.
The oil painting of the ship. My father was in the dining room with a clipboard. He was on the phone, his voice loud and booming. "Yes, the mahogany table is an original," he was saying. "I wanted appraised today. No, we aren't keeping it. We want to liquidate. Everything must go. We're remodeling. Liquidate. Remodel." Grandpa had been dead for 6 months, but they had waited for the will to be official. Now that the ink was dry, they were erasing him. They were turning his home, his sanctuary, into cash. I walked into the kitchen. Lauren was there. She was wearing a black silk robe that looked very expensive. She was leaning against the counter, holding a mug of tea. She looked out the window with a tragic expression on her face. "Oh, Maddie," she sighed when she saw me. "I just can't believe he's really gone. It's so hard being here. Everything reminds me of him." I looked at her. I looked at the counter next to her. There was a catalog for a luxury car dealership open. She had circled a convertible. "You never came here, Lauren," I said. My voice was calm. "You hated this place." She turned to me, her eyes narrowing. The tragic mask slipped. "I didn't hate it. I just had a life, Madeline. Unlike some people." She took a sip of her tea. "Besides, Grandpa wanted me to have the money. He knew I would do something big with it. He knew I had potential. He knew you liked to spend," I said. "Don't be bitter," she snapped. "It's ugly. Dad said you'd be bitter." I didn't answer. I walked past her to the coffee pot. It was empty. Of course. My mother walked into the kitchen. She looked energized. Her eyes were bright. She spotted me and her smile faded just a little.
"Madeline," she said.
"Good, you're up. We need you to clear out the guest cottage." The guest cottage. That was where Grandpa had lived. That was where he slept. That was where he kept his books and his tools. "You want me to throw his things away?" I asked. "We need the space," she said, checking her watch. "We're hiring a staging company to come in next week. We're going to list the property. The cottage needs to be empty.
Just box it all up.
We'll donate it to charity. Donate it." I felt a tightness in my throat. "Mom, those are his things. His fishing gear. His journals." "It's junk, Madeline," my father said. He had walked in from the dining room. He was punching numbers into a calculator. "It's old clutter. We're moving forward. We have a lot of assets to manage now. We don't have time for sentimental trash." I looked at them. The three of them. My father, counting money he hadn't earned. My mother, tagging furniture like a vulture. My sister, pretending to be sad while shopping for cars. They were a family, a tight, selfish circle. And I was standing on the outside. I reached into my pocket. My fingers brushed against the brass key I had found inside the envelope the night before. I hadn't used it yet. I hadn't told them about it. I'm not going to clean out the cottage, I said. My father stopped typing. He looked up. Excuse me? I said no. I said. I didn't raise my voice. I just said it flatly. You're living under our roof, my father started. Actually, I interrupted. I'm not. I'm 29. I have an apartment in the city. I pay my own rent. And right now, I'm leaving. My mother let out a short, sharp laugh. Leaving? And going where? You going to go spend your dollar? Lauren giggled. That was the moment. That was the twisting of the knife. They expected me to cry. They expected me to beg for a share of the money. They expected me to apologize for being difficult. I walked over to the table where my bag was. I picked it up. I slung it over my shoulder. I'm going to go earn my own, I said, repeating my father's words from the lawyer's office. I looked at my mother. You're right. I don't need much. I turned my back on them. My father called out something angry as I walked to the door, but I didn't stop. I walked out of the kitchen, down the hall where the sticky notes were like yellow sores on the furniture, and out the front door. I got into my old sedan. It had rust on the bumper and 150,000 miles on the engine. I started it up. I didn't drive back to the city. I drove down the long gravel driveway, but instead of turning left toward the highway, I turned right. I drove 2 miles down the road to the Lakeside Inn. It was a cheap motel that smelled like pine cleaner and cigarettes. Grandpa and I used to get breakfast there sometimes because he liked the pancakes. I checked into a room. I paid for 3 nights. I sat on the edge of the lumpy bed. The room was quiet. No sticky notes. No fake tears. Just me and the humming of the mini fridge. I took the envelope out of my bag. I poured the contents onto the bedspread. The dollar bill, the letter, the brass key. I picked up the key. It was heavy, old-fashioned. I knew exactly what it opened, but first I had to understand why. I unfolded the letter. I had read it once in the car, but now I needed to study it. The handwriting was shaky. Grandpa had written it near the end. Madeline, if you are reading this, they have done exactly what I thought they would do. They have taken the gold and left you the dust. Do not worry. Gold is heavy, but dust gets into everything. They think I didn't see. They think I was just an old man staring at the lake. But you and I know better. We look under the surface. You are the only one who knows the value of a hard day's work. You are the only one who knows that the truth is in the numbers. Start where the truth was first bent. Below his signature, there was a string of numbers. It wasn't a phone number. It wasn't a bank account. 10-15-2019-5011-02-2019-12500 C01-20-2020-45,000. ADV, there were pages of them. 3 sheets of legal pad paper, covered in his scrawling numbers. I took a deep breath. I opened my laptop. I connected to the motel's slow Wi-Fi. I was an accountant. My parents laughed at it. They called it boring. They said I was a bean counter, but beans add up. And right now, I was about to count every single one. The motel room was dark. The only light came from the glowing screen of my laptop. It was 3 a.m. I had been working for 10 hours straight. My eyes burned. My back ached. I had 3 empty coffee cups on the nightstand. But I couldn't stop. Grandpa's letter wasn't just a goodbye. It was a map. The phrase, "start where the truth was first bent," haunted me. I thought about it for an hour. Where was the truth bent? Then I looked at the first date on the list. October 15th, 2019. I remembered that date. That was the year Grandpa got sick for the first time. He had pneumonia. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks. My father had taken temporary control of the family finances to help out. That was the bend. I looked at the numbers next to the date. 5,000. I logged into the public records database. I used the skills I had learned in my fraud detection certification, another thing my parents didn't know I had. I pulled up the filings for my father's consulting firm, Carter Solutions. On October 15th, 2019, Carter Solutions received a payment of $5,000 from the Henry Carter Trust. The memo said, Maintenance consultation. I frowned. Grandpa didn't need a consultant for maintenance. He fixed everything himself, or he hired old man Miller down the road for $20 an hour. I moved to the next number. 11-02-2019-12500, C. November 2nd. Another payment, $12,500.
To a company
Called LC Designs. Elsie Lauren Carter. My sister had started an interior design business that year. It lasted 3 months before she got bored. She had no clients. But according to these records, Grandpa's trust had paid her $12,000 for design retainer. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. It wasn't the air conditioning. It was the realization of what I was looking at. They hadn't just waited for him to die. They had been bleeding him dry while he was still alive. I typed faster. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I built a spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, amount. Column C, the lie. The numbers got bigger. January 20th, 2020, $45,000. Advance on estate management. This went directly to my mother's personal account. June 15th, 2021, $150,000. Investment property purchase. I tracked that one carefully. The trust had bought a condo in Florida. But when I looked at the deed, the condo wasn't in Grandpa's name. It was in my father's name. He had used Grandpa's money to buy himself a vacation home, and he had buried the transaction deep in the ledger under portfolio diversification.
My heart was pounding in my chest.
This wasn't just greed. This was embezzlement. This was elder abuse.
This was a crime.
Grandpa had known. I looked at the sheets of paper again. He had written every single one of these down. He must have been sitting in his study late at night, comparing his bank statements to the lies my father told him. He saw the money leaving. He saw his son stealing from him. He saw his daughter-in-law treating his life's work like a personal ATM. And he didn't say a word. He just wrote it down.
Why?
Why didn't he call the police? Why didn't he fire them? Then I remembered what he told me on the boat. The truth doesn't shout. It waits. He knew that if he confronted them then, they would gaslight him. They would say he was old, confused, senile. They might have even tried to put him in a home to get control of the rest of the money. So he waited. He waited for me. I looked at the total at the bottom of my spreadsheet. Over 5 years, they had siphoned off nearly $2 million. And that was before the will. That was before the $6.9 million they got today. They were thieves. Smiling, well-dressed, country club thieves. I sat back in the cheap motel chair. I felt sick. I remembered my mother saying, "You don't need much." I remembered my father saying, "Go earn your own." They had stolen millions, and they begrudged me a prom dress. They had robbed their own father, and then laughed when they left me $1. The anger that rose up in me wasn't the hot, crying kind of anger I used to feel as a child. This was different. This was cold. This was hard. This was the deep water Grandpa talked about. I looked at the brass key again. The numbers on the paper were the proof of the crime. But they were just numbers. To really nail them, to really make this stick, I needed the smoking gun. I knew where the key went. In Grandpa's study, in the main house, there was a cabinet. A tall, locked cabinet in the corner. My mother hated it. She called it an eyesore. She had tried to get him to throw it out for years. He always said, "That's where I keep my old tax papers. It stays locked." My parents were in that house right now. They were sleeping in the bedrooms upstairs. They were probably dreaming of spending their millions. I checked the time. 4:15 a.m. The sun wouldn't be up for another 2 hours. The lake house would be dead silent. My father slept like a rock after drinking scotch, and he had been drinking a lot of it lately to celebrate. I closed my laptop. I put the papers back in the envelope. I put the brass key in my jeans pocket. I stood up. I wasn't Madeline, the invisible daughter, anymore. I wasn't the victim. I was the auditor. And I was going to work. I grabbed my car keys and opened the motel door. The night air was sharp and cold. I walked to my car, the gravel crunching softly under my boots. I wasn't afraid. It was time to go back to the house. It was time to see what was in the cabinet. I parked my car a quarter mile down the road. I didn't want the headlights sweeping across the bedroom windows. I didn't want the crunch of gravel to wake my father. I walked the rest of the way in the dark. The air was freezing. The mist from the lake was thick, wrapping around my legs like cold smoke. I pulled my coat tighter. The house loomed ahead. It looked huge and dark, like a sleeping monster. I had a key to the front door on my keychain, a spare they had forgotten to take back from me years ago. I slipped the key into the lock. I turned it slowly.
Click.
The door opened without a creak. Grandpa had oiled the hinges every spring. "A noisy door is a lazy man's door," he used to say.
Thank you, Grandpa.
I stepped inside. The house smelled like stale wine and expensive perfume. It was the smell of their celebration. I stood still in the hallway for a full minute, listening. I could hear the rhythmic snoring of my father coming from the master suite upstairs. I heard the hum of the refrigerator. I moved. I didn't walk like a normal person. I walked like I had walked my whole childhood, on the balls of my feet, shifting my weight carefully, making myself weightless. I was a ghost in my own home. I went straight to the study. It was in the back of the house, overlooking the lake. This was Grandpa's room. My mother had already started putting sticky notes in here. There was a yellow square on his leather chair, a yellow square on his globe. I ignored them. I went to the corner. There it was, the tall, dark wood cabinet. It looked like an ordinary piece of office furniture, but I knew it was custom-made. I took the heavy brass key from my pocket. My hand was shaking just a little. I took a deep breath to steady myself. Focus. Do the work. I slid the key into the lock. It turned with a satisfying thunk. I opened the doors. Inside, it wasn't a mess. It was a library of evidence. There were 3 shelves. The top shelf held binders, all labeled by year. The middle shelf held loose papers and legal pads. The bottom shelf held a small, black metal box and a digital video camera. I pulled out the binder labeled 2022. I opened it. It wasn't just receipts. It was a diary of theft. Grandpa had printed out emails my father had sent him, emails where Dad claimed he needed money for emergency repairs or legal retainers. Next to the emails, Grandpa had stapled the real invoices, showing the actual, much lower cost. He had highlighted the difference in red ink. He had calculated exactly how much they were skimming off the top. I picked up a notepad from the middle shelf. It was in Grandpa's handwriting. July 12th, Thomas asked for $20,000 for the foundation.
Checked with the bank.
The money went to a Porsche dealership in Greenwich. He thinks I am blind. August 4th, Elaine brought papers for me to sign. She said it was for insurance. I read it. It was a transfer of deed for the South lot. I told her I was tired and would sign later. She got angry. She has no poker face. I felt tears prick my eyes. He had been fighting them alone. He lived in this house, eating dinner with them, fishing with me, all while knowing they were robbing him. I looked at the bottom shelf. The camera. It was a high-end model, small but powerful. I picked it up. It had a battery pack attached. I turned it on. The screen flickered to life. I pressed the play button. The video that appeared on the small screen made my blood turn to ice. The timestamp was from 3 months ago. The angle was from the bookshelf, looking down at the desk. Grandpa must have hidden it there. In the video, Grandpa was sitting in his chair. He looked frail. My father and mother were standing over him. "Just sign it, Dad," my father said. His voice was aggressive. "Stop being difficult. It's just an authorization form." "I want to read it," Grandpa said. His voice was weak, but stubborn. "We don't have time for you to read 40 pages, my mother snapped. She slammed her hand on the desk. "We are trying to protect your assets. Do you want the government to take everything? Sign it." I don't know," Grandpa said. My father leaned in close. He put his hand on Grandpa's shoulder, but it wasn't a comforting touch. It was heavy. It was a threat. "You're confused, Henry," my father said. "Your mind isn't what it used to be. You need us to handle this. If you don't sign, we'll have to declare you incompetent. Do you want that? Do you want to go to a home?" On the screen, I saw Grandpa shrink back. He looked terrified. He picked up the pen. He signed. My father snatched the paper away. "Finally," he muttered. The video ended. I stared at the black screen. My hands were gripping the camera so hard my knuckles were white. That wasn't just theft. That was coercion. They had threatened to lock him away to get his signature. They had terrorized an old man in his own home. And he had recorded it all. He knew he couldn't fight them physically. He knew they would gaslight him if he spoke up. So, he let the camera be his witness. I looked at the brass key in my hand. He hadn't just given me an inheritance. He had given me the weapon to destroy them. I didn't have much time. The sun would be rising soon. I needed to secure the evidence, but I couldn't just take it. If they woke up and found the cabinet empty, they would panic. They would lawyer up. They would destroy anything else they had. Grandpa's letter said, "Truth doesn't shout, it waits." I had to be patient. I had to let them walk into the trap themselves. I sat on the floor of the study and opened my laptop. I pulled a high-speed portable hard drive from my backpack, something I used for my accounting work. I took the SD card out of the camera. I inserted it into my laptop. There were 50 videos, hours of footage. I copied every single one to my hard drive. Then I copied them again to a secure cloud server. Then I copied them to a USB stick I had on my keychain. Triple backup. Next, the documents. I couldn't scan everything. There was too much. I used my phone. I have an app that scans documents and turns them into PDFs. I worked fast. Snap. Turn page. Snap. Turn page. I focused on the most damning evidence. The red ink ledgers. The diary entries. The forged signatures. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Every creak of the house made me freeze. At one point, I heard footsteps directly above me. I stopped breathing. The floorboards groaned. It was my father. He was walking to the bathroom. I heard the flush of the toilet, then the water running, then footsteps going back to bed. I waited another minute to be sure. Silence returned. I went back to work. It took me an hour. By the time I was done, I had digital copies of everything. I had enough evidence to put them in prison, let alone contest a will. Now came the hardest part, putting it back. I had to be precise. I placed the binders back on the top shelf in the exact order they were. I stacked the legal pads on the middle shelf, making sure the edges aligned perfectly with the dust marks. I put the SD card back in the camera. I wiped my fingerprints off the camera body with my sleeve. I placed the camera back on the bottom shelf. I paused. Grandpa had left the camera on the bookshelf to record them, but in the cabinet, it was just storage. I looked around the room. Mr. Boone, the lawyer, was coming back today at 10 a.m. My parents had called him. They wanted to expedite the asset transfer. They wanted the money now. I needed to be ready. I closed the cabinet doors. I locked them with a brass key. I stood up and looked at the room. I checked the floor for footprints. I checked the desk to make sure I hadn't moved a pen or a coaster. It looked exactly as it had when I entered. It was a tomb of secrets, waiting to be opened. I slipped out of the study. The hallway was gray now, the morning light just starting to filter through the windows. The sticky notes on the furniture looked like eyes watching me. I walked to the front door. I opened it slowly, inch by inch. I stepped out onto the porch. The cold air hit my face, drying the sweat on my forehead. I locked the door behind me. I walked back down the driveway, the gravel crunching softly. I didn't run. I walked with a steady, purposeful rhythm. I got into my car. I sat there for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel. I looked at the house in the rearview mirror. My parents were still sleeping. They were probably dreaming of yachts and penthouses. They thought they had won. They thought they had erased Henry Carter and discarded Madeline Carter. They didn't know that the house was now a courtroom, and the trial was about to start. I started the engine. It rumbled to life. I drove back to the motel to shower and change. I had to put on my armor. I had a black suit in my bag. I had always hated wearing it because my mother said it made me look severe. Today, I wanted to look severe. I touched the brass key in my pocket one last time. Truth waits, Grandpa had said. Well, the wait was over. I arrived back at the lake house at 9:55 a.m. I parked my rusted sedan right next to Mr. Boone's sleek black town car. My parents' SUV was there, too, shining in the sun. I walked up the steps. I was wearing my black suit. My hair was pulled back tight. I carried my laptop bag and the envelope. When I walked into the living room, the scene was set. My parents were sitting on the long, white sofa. My father was wearing a polo shirt and khakis, looking relaxed. My mother was wearing a floral dress, sipping coffee. Lauren was scrolling on her phone, looking bored. Mr. Boone sat in the armchair opposite them. He had a briefcase open on his lap. When they saw me, the mood shifted instantly. Madeline. My mother frowned. She set her coffee down. What are you doing here? I thought you left to go earn your own. Yeah, Lauren laughed. Did you spend your dollar already? My father sighed, looking annoyed. If you're here to beg for money, Maddie, save your breath. The will is sealed. I didn't answer them. I walked into the room and stood next to Mr. Boone. "Good morning, Mr. Boone," I said. Mr. Boone looked up. He wasn't smiling. He looked serious.
He nodded at me.
"Miss Carter, you're right on time." My father narrowed his eyes. On time for what? "For the second part of the reading," Mr. Boone said calmly. "Second part." My father sat up straighter. "There is no second part. We read the will. It's done." "The will had a contingency clause," Mr. Boone said. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a remote control. Henry was very specific. If Madeline returned with the key, we were to proceed to step 2. Key?
My mother looked at me.
What key? I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the heavy brass key. I held it up. The light caught the metal. My father's face went pale. He recognized it. He knew exactly what it opened. That's from the study," he stammered. "You broke into the study?" "I didn't break in," I said. "I was invited." Mr. Boone pointed the remote at the large flat-screen TV mounted above the fireplace. "Henry left a video message. He wanted you all to see it together." "This is ridiculous," my mother said, standing up. "I'm not watching this." Henry was senile. Whatever he said, it doesn't matter. "Sit down, Elaine," Mr. Boone said. His voice was sharp, like a whip crack. It wasn't a request. My mother sat down slowly. Mr. Boone pressed play. The screen flickered. Grandpa's face appeared. He was sitting in his study, the lake visible in the window behind him. He looked healthier than he had at the end, stronger. "Hello," Grandpa said.
His voice filled the room.
"If you are watching this, it means 2 things. 1, I am dead. And 2, Madeline has found the truth. My parents were frozen." Lauren finally looked up from her phone.
"Thomas."
"Elaine," Grandpa continued, looking directly into the camera. "You spent the last 5 years waiting for me to die. You thought I didn't see you stealing from the trust. You thought I didn't notice the fake invoices, the shell companies, the coercion. This is a lie," my father shouted. He jumped up. "Turn it off. Sit down, Mr. Carter," Mr. Boone said. "Or I will call the sheriff. He is waiting outside in his car." My father collapsed back onto the sofa. He looked like he was going to throw up. On the screen, Grandpa held up a binder. "I have recorded everything. Every dollar you stole. Every document you forced me to sign. It is all in the cabinet." Then the video cut. The screen changed. It was the footage from the hidden camera. The footage I had watched last night. The room watched in silence as the video played. They watched my father threatening Grandpa. They watched my mother slamming her hand on the desk. They heard themselves say, "If you don't sign, we'll declare you incompetent." It was brutal. It was undeniable. My mother put her hand over her mouth. Lauren looked from the screen to her parents, her eyes wide with shock. You did that?" Lauren whispered. "It's edited," my father choked out. "It's out of context." The video ended. Grandpa's face returned. "Because of this gross misconduct," Grandpa said, "I invoked the Slayer Rule clause in my estate planning. Anyone who has defrauded or abused the estate forfeits their inheritance." He paused. He smiled, a sad, small smile. "The $6.9 million promised to Lauren is revoked, as it was funded by the stolen asset. The lake house, the investments, and the control of the Carter Foundation are hereby transferred to the only person who never asked me for a dime." He looked right at the camera. "To Madeline Carter." The screen went black. The silence in the room was heavy. It felt like the air had been sucked out. Mr. Boone closed his briefcase. He placed a stack of papers on the coffee table. "These are the transfer documents," he said. "The police have already been given copies of the evidence found in the cabinet. The district attorney is reviewing them for charges of elder abuse, fraud, and embezzlement." My mother started to cry. It wasn't the pretty, delicate crying she did at the funeral. It was ugly, gasping sobs. We were just trying to manage things. We have bills, the club membership, the mortgage."
"You stole," I said.
My voice was quiet, but it cut through her sobbing. I walked over to the coffee table.
I looked down at them. My father wouldn't look at me. He was staring at his hands.
He looked old. All the bluster, all the arrogance was gone. He was just a small, scared man who had been caught. Lauren was shaking. "But what about my money? I put a deposit on a condo. I ordered a car." "You don't have any money, Lauren," I said. "You never did. It was Grandpa's money." "But I didn't do anything," she wailed. "I didn't steal. Why am I being punished?" "You watched," I said. You saw how they treated him. You saw how they treated me. And you took the checks. You enjoyed the fruit of the poisonous tree. I turned to Mr. Boone. What are the terms? If they contest the will, Mr. Boone said, looking at my parents, the evidence goes to trial. They will likely go to prison for 10 to 15 years. If they accept the terms, they leave with nothing. The estate will not press charges, provided they vacate all properties and sign a confession of guilt for the civil records. My father looked up. His eyes were red. Nothing? You're leaving us with nothing? Maddie, we're your parents. And he was your father, I said. Did that stop you? He flinched. You gave me $1, I said. You told me to go earn my own. Well, I did. I earned this by paying attention when you didn't. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single dollar bill they had given me yesterday. I placed it gently on the table in front of my father. Here, I said. Start with this. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. Grandpa was right. The truth didn't need to shout. The weight of it was crushing them. My father's hand shook as he reached for the pen Mr. Boone held out. He signed the papers. My mother signed next, her tears blotting the ink. Lauren didn't have to sign anything. She just sat there, realizing that her golden future had just turned to dust. You have 1 hour to vacate the premises, Mr. Boone said. The locks will be changed at noon. An hour later, they were gone. They packed their SUV with whatever clothes they could fit. There was no room for the furniture, the paintings, or the trophies. They drove away in a cloud of dust, arguing before they even reached the main road. I stood on the porch and watched them go. I felt light. It wasn't a burst of joy. It was a deep, quiet relief. The stone in my stomach was gone. The invisibility cloak I had worn for 29 years had dissolved. I walked through the house. I pulled the yellow sticky notes off the furniture. Rip. Off the clock. Rip. Off the armchair. Rip. Off the globe. I balled them up and threw them in the trash. The house could breathe again. I walked out the back door and down the wooden stairs to the dock. The sun was high now. The mist had burned off. The lake was a brilliant, sparkling blue. I walked to the end of the dock and sat down, letting my legs dangle over the edge. The water was calm. I thought about the future. I had a lot to do. I had a foundation to run. I had a fortune to manage. I would probably sell the big house in Connecticut. Too many bad memories. But I would keep this place. I would fix up the boat. I would keep the fishing rods. I looked down into the water. I watched the surface, then I looked deeper. I saw the weeds swaying in the current. I saw a school of minnows darting by. I did it, Grandpa, I whispered. A gentle breeze rippled the water. It sounded like a sigh of relief. Still water tells the truth if you know how to listen. For the first time in my life, I didn't need to fight to be heard. I didn't need to prove I existed. I was here. I was the owner of my own life. I took a deep breath of the pine-scented air. Some endings arrive quietly, I said to the lake. Some freedoms too. I stood up, brushed the dust off my black suit, and turned back toward the house. My house. I had a lot of work to do, and for the first time, I couldn't wait to start.